We all think we know the story of Bonnie Prince Charlie. But what if I told you that the romantic legend and that dismissive stereotype are both kind of wrong? Today, we're going to push past the myths and actually look at the man through the eyes of the people who were right there beside him. You know the popular image, right? This handsome but ultimately doomed hero. A romantic failure who, let's be honest, wasn't much good when things got tough, and who eventually just drank himself into oblivion. That's the caricature we're always sold. But here's the thing, when you start digging into the first-hand accounts from the people who were actually there, a completely different person starts to emerge. So the big question is, does that old stereotype actually hold up? So, here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at that caricature and our main source of evidence. Then, we'll see him in action as a commander on the battlefield and, well, as a pretty resourceful fugitive on the run. And finally, we'll pull it all together to see the real man behind the myth. Okay, so where is all this evidence coming from? Well, our main source is this incredible collection of first-hand Jacobite testimony. It's called the Lyon in Mourning. And this, right here, is where the story gets really, really interesting. Now, it's really important to know this is a Jacobite collection. So yeah, it's sympathetic to the cause, but we shouldn't just dismiss it because of that. In fact, that's what makes it so valuable. It preserves these raw, unfiltered memories of how he acted under the most extreme pressure from the very people who marched with him, hid with him, and even ate with him. And right away, this testimony just completely challenges that stereotype. Take Captain O'Neill's journal. He says Charles was cautious when in the greatest danger, never at a loss in resolving what to do. That does not sound like a guy who was not much use under pressure, does it? Okay, so let's jump into the 1745 campaign itself. The evidence we have from this time paints a picture not of some decorative figurehead just being carried along by events, but of a really active, decisive leader who is driving the action forward. And it's the little details that really bring this to life. When his convoy got damaged right at the start, others wanted to go home. He flat out refused. Before a night attack, he was the one pushing for it, saying, "Not a moment to be lost." His stamina was just legendary. The guy walked 16 miles, lost the heel of his boot, and was still moving so fast, the Highlanders were worried he'd wear them out. And right from his first night, he was looking after his guys, making sure the most exhausted soldiers had beds, and even checking them himself. And get this, at Narn, when some of the chiefs were hesitating, Charles didn't just sit back. No, he went right to the front of the column, laid out the strategy in what one account called the most pathetic and strong terms, and then offered to lead the charge himself. This was a man who was running his own campaign. Of course, after the devastating defeat at Culloden, a whole different set of skills was needed. It wasn't about leading an army anymore. It was all about survival intelligence. And here again, the eyewitness accounts show a man who was incredibly quick on his feet. He was a fugitive now, being hunted all across the rugged highlands and islands. Just look at the terrain on this map. There was absolutely no room for error. Survival meant you had to constantly adapt and think on your feet, second by second. And the accounts are just full of these moments. In one story, a guy recognizes him but tries to cover for him on the spot, calling him Dougal MacAloney. Charles instantly gets the hint and just plays along. Another time, someone warns him not to look too refined drinking from a rough cup because it might give him away. His response? "You are right," and he drinks from it immediately. This is a guy who is processing information and reacting in real time. And his endurance through all of this was, well, it was just extraordinary. Surviving in this kind of landscape wasn't just about being physically tough. It took immense psychological resilience. And the stories from his time on the run show a guy who stayed steady and clear-headed, even when fear and exhaustion were basically his constant companions. And he wasn't kidding himself about what he was going through. He actually remarked at one point that since Culloden, he had endured more than would kill 100. He knew exactly how extreme this situation was, and yet he just kept going. But, maybe the most striking things of all are the smaller, more personal stories that show us his character. These moments give us evidence of kindness, of gratitude, and a surprising amount of mercy. Think about this. He's on the run for his life, and his companions suggest killing a suspected spy. Charles refuses, and his reason was crystal clear. God forbid that we should take any poor man's life while we can save our own. That is a remarkable display of mercy from a man with a massive price on his own head. He also constantly showed his gratitude, promising over and over that he would never forget the services my friends do me in distress. He noticed people. He remembered what they did, and he valued their loyalty. These aren't just grand political statements. They're the habits of a man who genuinely sees the people around him. So, when you put all this testimony together, what kind of man do you see? Not a shallow fool, that's for sure. You see someone with real courage who pushed for bold action and clear direction. A man of incredible endurance and self-command. And maybe most importantly, a man with a real sense of humanity, who noticed the tired, the ruined, and the vulnerable people all around him. So, does this prove he was some kind of flawless hero? Of course not. Nobody is. But it absolutely reveals that the familiar caricature we all know is just way too simple. Which leaves us with one last, nagging question. How could a man who is remembered as a drunk and a fool have actually done all of these things?